All right. So this is Grandmaster Magesh Panchanathan. Welcome to the US Chess School class. And I guess I still see people coming in. And today I'm going to show you maybe one or multiple games, depending on how fast we can calculate and progress, of some of my recent games. So last weekend, we had a nice chess tournament. I believe some of you in this meeting were playing in it. I definitely recognize Roger was playing in it. Timothy, I believe, was playing it. I don't know if Merrick was playing in it. The US Amateur Team East tournament, yeah? So we had this big team event in New Jersey last weekend. I know there was a big event, a reasonably big tournament in Houston, the Southwest Class Championship, if I remember right. So there's plenty of action this weekend. I was playing as a part of a team, and it was pretty good. Oh, that was in Dallas. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, not Houston. So I was part of this team, and we had a really nice run. In fact, we tied for first place. I've played this so many years and never ever won, but finally got to a good point. So I had some interesting games, and I wanted to share that. And I always like to do that when I play a tournament, because the thought process of what I did, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, it's very fresh in my mind, and it's easier for me to explain. It's easier for me to talk about some of the ideas and how I reacted, or time management, so many things. Yeah. So it's really nice to do practical games. I mean, the games were recent. Anyways, so in my very first game, I got this position, and I was playing black. So I was playing, I don't remember my opponent's rating exactly. I might be able to check, but I'm guessing maybe a 2000 or somewhere. I don't know exactly what it is. I shouldn't comment on a rating without knowing that. And I was playing black pieces here. And I played one of those setups in Roy Lopez where you don't really play b5, and I just kind of go d6, bishop d7. It's played. It's not the most aggressive line. It's a little passive. It's usually done to take your opponent out of the opening theory, which is what I was hoping to do. And that's what I did here, yeah? So I reached this middle game position. My opponent's last move was knight to e2. Before we start calculating, before we start doing something, how about we do some basic factors in the position? I always like to do this. If anyone has been in my class before, you probably know that. Basic factors meaning just observation. You don't need to tell me any move or plan. Simply what you see, right? And eventually that is what is going to help you come up with better decisions, right? Any basic observation in the position, you can tell me. Use the chat. You can use private chat to talk about answers, to talk about your ideas. Okay. Black pawn structures towards king side, white pawn structure towards queen side. Okay. Black could have a potential king side attack. White has more queen side space, but nothing happening there. Okay. White has slightly weakened structure with the h3 pawn. Okay. You type that to everyone, Narayan. Do it in private chat. Potential f5 break. c2 and f8 bishops are bad. Knight on f4 is weak. Black has advantage on the king side. I was thinking the knight on f4 is actually a positive thing by some of you. Some of you are saying not so good. White has bad light square bishop, potential attack on pawns. Knight f4 is okay. All right, good. I think some basic stuff. If some of you play the Roy Lopez or any closed game like Spanish, Italian, you probably have some idea of these positions. These are not the most aggressive type. Mostly they're very slow and strategic play. But I think some basic factors have been very clearly mentioned. White has more space. The pawn on d5 definitely gives more space. There is a pawn chain pointing towards the queen side. Typically, that means there is more play towards the king side, whereas black's pawn chain is pointing towards the king side. White was towards the queen side, black towards the king side. And there could be play on this side, yeah. And that also allows typical break ideas. So black will play for f5 kind of break. White can play for, c5 kind of break. And very, very normal pawn structure things. In terms of space, since black is lacking space, it's not easy. But luckily, this knight and this knight are out of the way. If they are more on this side, then you know that the knight and bishop are going to find it very difficult to find good squares. So yeah, that's the basic point right now. So first question is, okay, I'll also, as I go through the moves, I'm going to tell you how I was playing this in the game. Most of this game I was playing intuitively. So I have to tell you, I did not sink into any long, deep calculation in this game, even though the game was actually a G120 with 40 moves, time control with another half an hour sudden finish. It was a long time control. But this is the first game, and I kind of tried to just go with the intuition and just play with what my general feel was. So I didn't spend too much time. So in this position, probably I spent like 2 minutes or 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. Anyone in the FIDE Chessable Academy here? I have no idea right now. Okay, I'm going back to go into the position. So what is the first decision? Yeah, I think the first decision is very straightforward. What do you think black has to make in terms of position? Okay, good. Narayan has mentioned something. Let's type in some candidate moves now, given that we have discussed some basic things in the position. So knight takes e2 is a candidate move. Queen f6 is a candidate move that is given. G5 has been given. Knight to G6 has been given. Can I actually play knight G5? I'm not so sure if knight G5 is a candidate move because I'm dropping a pawn. So, Narayan, do you remember the game? Aha, so you're going to have a slight edge. But remember this, just because you remember the game doesn't mean that involves all the analysis though, yeah? Don't get comfortable. So knight G5, the problem is I'm going to immediately question what happens if I take on F4. If I play knight G5, knight takes F4 is winning a pawn. So I need to definitely justify why. Because knight takes F3, queen takes F3 is possible. I'm not so sure how black is justifying it. So you have to think about it, yeah? G5 for a plan of an attack is very much possible, yeah? So I'll tell you, let's think a little bit about, oh, I see some people are in the waiting room. Let's get them in. Yes, I just got you. Okay, so I'll give all of you a little bit of time. Think about what is the best move that you think you would play, like an intuitive decision, and make that call first. What would you play? And I would like each and every one of you to give me a move. Remember this, right or wrong. Try to participate as much as possible. Only then I can help you. By looking at answers, I can give feedback. So just take a shot, give your ideas as much as possible. Okay, so I've gotten some queen f6, g5, g5. All right, fair enough. Like I said, the move that I played in the game doesn't have to be the right move, you know? So you don't have to worry about that at all. Just don't even think about it. Right? So I get a few g5s and I get a few queen f6. Queen f6, there may be a problem of bishop takes f4, pawn takes f4, queen d4. Yes, that's something you have to calculate. But I think the pawn is defendable though, yeah? You can easily play g5 after the trade. But of course, you still have to figure out if it's worth it or if it's good or bad. You still have to calculate that. The bishops are monsters. Vihan, we are just going over one of my games from the amateur team East. And whenever I play a tournament, I usually like to show that because I can talk about my thought process. I can talk about the game in depth and discuss good and bad things that happen during the game. We're just basically trying to decide what move could be a good move here. All right, fair enough. So I got a bunch of queen f6. I'm not an amateur. Well, Ryo, the team tournament is an amateur team tournament because the average rating cannot be over 2200 or for 4 boards. I was playing board 1, and my last board was a 1600. So our team average was something like 2080. So it's a fun tournament. They even out all the players. No, everybody has a good shot. You can have a grandmaster on board 1, doesn't matter. Everybody has a good shot. It's a fun tournament, yeah. Anyway, so Queen F6 and G5, I think, has won this thing, won this round with the most number of votes. First of all, the first thing I was considering is quickly, I thought if I can take on E2 and then try to play some G6, F5, G6, Bishop, G7, F5 is what it is. But then it's not so keen on my knight sitting on H7, particularly when there is an attack on this pawn, I cannot play King H7. So I was a little worried about it. And unfortunately, I was not a big fan of G5. Now, the problem with this, I felt, was that I can easily defend this pawn. I can go knight G1 if I need at some point, and I can kick this knight out. And this square is not coming back for me. Yeah. And I have to, of course, prove this with a single-minded attack. And I didn't feel like I have enough to say that, I can just attack and win this one. So I felt like G5, not 100% sure about it. I was a little worried about the square being weak. Not sure if I have enough of an attack. Again, it's an intuitive decision. I don't think G5 is that bad. Of course, it's still playable. Yeah, but all of these lines, white is still going to maintain some advantage. So anyway, after thinking about this, after going through what happened in the game and everything, I feel Queen F6 is probably one of the best options to go with. You are going to go into that structure with the pawn on F4. Was this tournament in San Francisco? No, this was in New Jersey, Brian. In New Jersey, in Parsippany. It happens every year, President's Day weekend. It's a big event. So I quickly made a decision. So I thought, what? This knight on E2 is a little poorly placed. I do want to play Queen F6. I do want to play moves like knight G5. Yeah. So I thought, why not simply wait and come back? Yeah, it looks very counterintuitive to play knight to H5, but I was thinking, what will white play after knight H5? Right? And I felt it doesn't seem like white has too many great options. And there was one move that, of course, I had to calculate. If they play knight G3, I'll take. And then they can play FG3 and play for their file. They can play King G3 too. But if I'm going to play knight H5, there's only one move I needed to calculate. What move is that? Correct. Narayan is correct. Everyone else, you can type in chat. What move should I really calculate? Ryo, Vihan, correct. Eric, Roger, Aryan, good, Davis. Basically, I have to calculate G4. So what can I do after G4? What do you guys think? Oh, I think your notation is wrong, Narayan, but correct, yeah. Well, that's the main move you have to calculate, of course. Otherwise, knight H5 does not even make sense, yeah? Vihan, if I have to play that move, what is the point of knight H5? I would much rather trade off the knights, right? So after knight H5, G4, what is the critical line that black has to calculate? Game continued, Ryo. That's not how the game continued. Sorry. But that's a very interesting line. But if I have to do that move, Ryo, I think the knight H5 doesn't make sense. Roger and Sefer, correct. That's the main move. Vihan, that's the correct move, yes. And Aryan, that's the correct move. So clearly, the move I was hoping for is, I'm a positional player, and I like to play these slow, drawn-out positional games. So, everyone has their own playing style. And notice how I did not like to play G5. By the same token, I don't mind if my opponent plays G4 and I have the right kind of pieces to deal with it. So that's another reason why I play knight H5, because if I can deal with G4 properly, right? So the question is, should white play G4? Because Queen F6 is, of course, the response that black is going to have after G4. So what should white do here? Well, don't decide yet, Vihan. Take your time. Think a little bit. So what I want to do is the first half of this class, I want to focus on the critical point where the game is once a struggle. Both sides are trying to fight and have a very interesting situation. But the second half, I want to go to the part where I think I probably gained a reasonably good advantage. And then it's more about technique to make sure you finish off the game. You have to calculate in this middle game only 2 or 3 moves. Don't go any much in depth, too much in depth. I've talked about this. Middle game calculation is all about short baby steps, right? One of the biggest mistakes I've seen students do is calculate like 5, 6 moves here. You don't want to do that. Just think 2 or 3 moves maximum, and then try to assess the position. Do you like this? Do you like that? You're making judgment calls. The first judgment, of course, is whether or not to play G4, right? The only forcing move in the position. Vihan has changed his mind. Okay. But you have to give me an explanation why. What variation are you calculating that makes it interesting or makes it not interesting? Alexander Wang, what does that move? I mean, that's a move that has already been played for black. What is white's move is what I'm asking. Eric, very interesting line, Eric. Friend, I want you to tell me what is your evaluation. By the way, guys, when you give me variation, try to give me an evaluation. That's very important for yourself too, because that's how you make decisions. Vihan, you have to give me an evaluation. But Merrick, why are you offering a repetition here? You're already not feeling good about white's position. I mean, it's still very early, and you have to assume that white still should maintain some advantage in most of the lanes, yeah? White is slightly better to equal Narayan, okay. Austin, the topic today is one of my games. We're just going over one of my games that I played recently. Okay, black is slightly better, okay. All right, guys. So let me ask a more direct question that all of you should answer now. We've spent some time. Will you or will you not play G4 for white? Yes or no? Very simple question. Yes or no? I want everyone to weigh in here. Okay, I've got 2 people who have said okay. I don't have a poll on these moves. I'm sorry. All right. I got like 3 or 4 people who want to play G4, and most of you are in agreement to say no, you don't want to play G4. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this, right? It's equal after knight G3. Okay. Well, at least a couple of you have suggested knight G3. The only problem is I have to say that, even if I do repeat, I'm not so sure white should be happy with it. But okay, of course, white, you might find something better than knight E2. That's a different story. But if you're going to go knight E2, again, I don't know if white, you can call it a success for white. Because this is very early part of the opening. I have to say that this is somewhere white is still trying to find advantage. It has to be. I mean, you cannot expect black to have advantage or something like that. White has not done anything wrong, right? Do you see anything that white has done wrong? No, it seems like a very normal position. I mean, from the closed games, but maybe D5 is committed. But other than that, I don't see white did anything wrong. Anyways, the answer is that G4 is actually a good move. It's not a bad move at all. It's in fact a very nice move if you can follow up with a clear calculation. Now, sometimes the position requires some kind of calculation and precision, and you need to follow up with that. Now, Narayan, you gave me a beautiful variation, and you made a decision in between, which I need to kind of ask. By the way, G4, Queen F6. White has only one move that's interesting. Every other move, hands down, black is fine. What's the one move that white can play? After G4, Queen F6. Oh, Austin, you're typing it to everyone. Can you do the chat private? And Ryo, also, please, private chat. Unless, of course, you're giving me some General assessment, that's fine. By the way, queen d3 happens to be a tactical blunder. It looks like a good move, of course, but I don't think it works. What's wrong with queen d3? Yep. I think most of you are typing it in chat. Now bishop to b5. I'm not playing the moves out. I want you to calculate a little bit. After g4, queen f6, white cannot play queen d3 because bishop b5. And if you play c4, I'll simply take bishop takes c4. And that's a problem. Yeah, you cannot do that. So yes, Roger, correct. That's the only move. Narayan, you gave me the correct sequence for white. White has only one interesting move after g4, queen f6. Correct. So right now, I think most of you have given me king g2. I cannot move the knight, and I cannot play some other random move like moving this knight to defend this, because then knight f4 is very comfortable for black. I end up plugging my knight into f4, and your bishop, you definitely don't want to lose your bishop. But then I might threaten h5, threaten knight g5. I'll threaten queen queen is already on f6, sorry. It just looks really comfortable for black, yeah? So the key is to make sure that you force a situation where f4 doesn't become a hole, yeah? So king g2 is the only interesting move, right? Now, if you ask me, during my calculation, I didn't really think, because remember I told you I spent only a couple of minutes, I didn't really calculate sequence or moves or anything. I simply saw knight h5, and after g4, I saw queen f6, and I stopped my calculation. I said, okay, you know what? After queen f6, I can get knight f4, so I'm fine. I didn't really calculate much. And when my opponent actually played king g2, I realized I should have calculated this, because knight f4 is not that straightforward anymore, because I have a knight on e2 and bishop on c1, yeah? Now, after king g2, black has, again, only one move. What am I going to do? I cannot do much. I have only one possibility, which is what? I have to throw in the knight f4 check, yeah? I mean, it's not, my knight is completely stuck. I don't have any interesting sacrifices, nothing going on, so I have to throw knight f4 check. Now, white, what can white do? So as soon as knight h5 is played, you can see that I'm able to build a calculation variation reasonably. Until then, we had too many options. We didn't do anything. This is how a game calculation works. Suddenly you play a move, or you see your opponent play a move that will help. I mean, not help. That will give you a chance to calculate a few moves. After knight h5, we're able to calculate now. So Narayan is giving me the main option. Some of you are giving me one move. After knight f4 check, white simply has two options. Knight takes f4, bishop takes f4. Yeah. Now, what should white play? I'm going to give you, let's say, 3 minutes. All of you can calculate. Again, I'm not making any moves, because after g4, all of this is kind of forcing. After g4, queen f6 is almost forced. King g2 is almost forced. Knight f4 check is forced. Now you have your decision-making point there. You take with the knight, or you take with the bishop. The knight can probably find its way back, yeah? I know it's bad right now. I can definitely find my way back, particularly to, let's say, e5 at some point. But still good assessment overall, though. So Austin May, you gave the same variation, Brian. Very interesting. I can see you both are very initiative type of players. You're finding more forcing sequence within this, which is quite interesting. The only thing is, after e5 takes queen d3, maybe I'll play e4 and give you the pawn back. Rook takes e4, rook takes e4, queen takes e4, and then maybe go queen g7. Now the thing is, I get knight f6 with the tempo. I get bishop d6 coming in. I get rook e8. I'm not so sure. Because half of your pieces are not developed. The bishop on c1, rook on a1 are not developed. By the way, just to bring everyone up to speed, the variation we're talking about is after, okay, I'll start from here. g4, queen f6, king g2, knight f4, knight takes f4, pawn takes f4, queen d2 is what they want to do, hit the pawn. I'm forced to play g5 to defend the pawn, and then they want to go e5, sacrificing it. After pawn takes e5, queen d3. The double bishop advantage means nothing. Okay, it's possible. So yeah, in this position, I was talking about e4, giving the pawn back. Because if I play queen g7, they want to play knight e5 anyways and win that pawn back. So e4, yes. After rook takes e4, rook takes e4, queen takes e4. Now I go back queen g7. I think black is okay. Because if you play knight e5, now I get rook e8. And no matter what, I think I'll probably play rook e8 or bishop d6. And white does have a better structure, but I feel like black actually might be the one who has an attack. Black might get h5 at some point and might be very dangerous for white. All right. So anyways, let's just make a call. We've spent some time. Would you take with the knight or with the bishop after knight f4? Just give me one of the two, knight or bishop. By the way, what are you capturing with? Not what piece you're keeping. After knight f4, will you play knight takes f4 or bishop takes f4? Okay, both Austin want to take knight takes, Narayan bishop takes, Roger bishop takes, Eric and both Eric's bishop takes. David also bishop captures, interesting. So he's like B, I like that short form. All right, come on, I see a lot of you who have not typed in an answer. I see 30 participants in here. Knight takes. Knight takes. All right. Again, very good. They're fond of taking with the bishop. Okay, yes. Sefer, that's right. So when I played this, I have to tell you, I only considered knight takes. I didn't really calculate a lot with bishop takes, but turns out bishop takes f4 is a better move. Yeah. So g4, queen f6, and after king g2, knight f4, bishop takes f4 somehow is not very easy to spot. Because when I initially looked at this, I think a lot of you in your variation just gave me knight f4 directly. And it makes a lot of sense to keep the second bishop. It's not that obvious a decision, actually, if you ask me, because usually knight f4 is okay because I want to get that bishop if I double up the pawns. The reason I was feeling bad about this position is because I felt, if you place knight takes f4, I get the double pawn structure without even getting the bishop. So automatically, I assumed white will play knight takes f4, right? So I was calculating mostly that when I was looking at the variations after this. But like I said, there's a huge difference. Bishop takes f4 gives you a much better positional advantage here. It turns out that the bishop is not doing as much. The knight on f3 is doing a lot more. And the bishop needs more scope. If I was able to get to the long diagonal, I would say, yes, the bishop would be good. But it's not easy. It's going to take too much time. And in the meantime, black has active ideas, h5, g5, all those things, yeah? So bishop takes f4, pawn takes f4. Typically, you can play, I know a lot of you suggested queen d4. I think seems reasonable. You can also force me to play g5 again, just like last time. Play queen d2, and I have to play something like g5, and then you go queen d4 now. Or maybe even knight e to d4. And you can go for a trade, yeah? So again, this is not very obvious to me. I mean, the computer says white's better. If you ask me, still not so clear to me. Suddenly computer says one move is equal, one move is better. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm going to be very practical about what is reasonable in a game. And when I was calculating, it was not too evident. Like I said, I didn't spend too much time on this. But okay, let's move on to the game. My opponent quickly took knight takes f4. He was also probably under the same impression. If I get this double pawn without giving the bishop, then white should have something, right? That's what he went with. Pawn takes, and he played queen d3. Obviously, he's threatening e5 with the checkmate threat. And I'm pretty forced to play g6. And that's what I did. He played bishop to d2. And I simply played bishop to g7. And I was actually okay here. I felt comfortable. And he played rook b1. Yeah. Okay. So, he's playing rook b1 because he wants to play b3. And then he wants to play c4. And then he wants to, I don't know, maybe, or b4. Probably b4 is better, so not b3. And then go c4 and c5 and maybe for queenside expansion. And also at some point, maybe bring the bishop to the long diagonal. Yeah. So what should black do here? Again, I'll give you a couple of minutes. too much. Right, Narayan has given me one move. Is that the move you think is the best, Narayan, or do you think that's a move I play? Okay. I see two candidate moves mainly for black. In fact, I want all of you to come up with two candidate moves. Hanchi, that's good. That's one of the candidate moves. I see someone in the waiting room. Crystal, okay. Vihan, two candidate moves, correct. Alexander Wang, that's correct. Correct. That's also a candidate move, right? All right. Austin, May, Zephyr, good. Yeah. So basically, most of you are, again, looking at very simple critical moves. I have pawn to h5 or I have knight to g5. Yeah. Both moves seem like it's immediate. I'm trying to go after, the king. Yeah. Why not? Because I have a majority on that side. I have a pawn at f4 that's sitting, which looks very strong. So with my pieces around, I can definitely try to break free. Yeah. So the first move that caught my attention was h5, of course, because h5 is more forcing. I was like, okay, if I play h5, he pretty much has to take. I don't see a lot of options. Yeah. So h5 pawn takes, and then follow up with knight g5. This is what I went on with the game. So I played h5, takes, and knight g5. Okay, I'm threatening to take on h3. And of course, if you take pawn takes g6, you're opening the position quite a bit on your own king. So it's not going to be good for white. And again, I was very comfortable when I played this. I felt I should have a nice attack. And then, okay, my opponent played knight takes g5, queen takes g5, king h2. So an interesting critical point. First of all, the question is, what do you guys think? Do you think the position is still very much in balance, or do you think it's tilting towards one side? Okay. Black could be better, balanced. White could be better. Evan, which side? Evan Han, which side? White is objectively better. Austin May, okay. Maybe slightly better for black for a few reasons. Very interesting. Okay. A bit for white. Okay. All right. I'll tell you what I felt during the game. At this point, I felt it's tilting towards black, and I was right. So black is getting a lot of initiative here. Black has sacrificed a pawn. In fact, I can regain that pawn back, of course. But the most important thing is my f4 pawn is a big pain. It's not easy. It's blocking a lot of your defensive resources. And I felt like the h3 pawn will be mine in the longer run if I can attack or open the h file, or really double up or get my rook to the h file. Yeah. White player is probably position player because of his opening choice, and he's a tactical game now. Well, Austin, that cannot be so obvious. You can't always completely assume that. There could be some, players who play, tactical players who play very, play London system, and then eventually get super tactical positions too. But I mean, outside of the qualities of the player, I'm just thinking right here, black is gaining momentum. Black is gaining initiative. And I started to feel this. And it's important during the game because only based on this intuition, you will look for the Hutch moves. Because if you think equality is what you're looking for, that's what I was looking for 3 moves ago. Remember when the knight was on f4, knight e2, we were talking about what should we do when I play knight h5. I'm still not clearly thinking that black is better. I'm at that point evaluating the position to be maybe slightly better for white or equal, typically what you will get out of the opening. But here, inside my mind, the mental evaluation is changing. I'm feeling like white's not doing something right. Yeah. Rook b1, for example, felt off for me. It seemed a little too slow. And I'm thinking, okay, I might be able to add some pressure. I might be able to make this more forcing. And this is important. Only then you'll play with strong initiative. So now you have some options. Let's type in candidate moves. How are you going to continue? So from here on, increasing your advantage and finishing the game off is what we're going to learn, or what you're going to see, right? In this particular game, I did this well. There are games, of course, I've made some mistakes. obviously. But this one, I felt like I did pretty well. So let's talk about it. So queen h4, queen takes h5, bishop e5. Fair enough. 3 very reasonable moves. G takes h5 was not a big deal of my calculation, but yes, it's possible also. Yeah, queen h5, queen h4, bishop e5. Yeah, very interesting. And G takes h5 is possible if rook g1 is not a problem. And yes, that's also possible. Now, let's look at each move and try to look at white's response and then try to evaluate and then decide which one we like the most. Zafir has given me a nice variation. Remember this, if you calculate, always look for some extra variations as well. See if you can try something else where someone will play a different move and you continue to branch off and work on it. G takes h5 is opening the h7 b1 diagonal. Yeah, g5 looks highly suspect. That's true. Actually, I forgot about the fact that we had the pawn on g6 for the long diagonal. Don't forget that, guys. Narayan has given me something, Eric. Okay. Eric, are you not dropping the pawn on f4 in your variation? Eric Feng. I think you're dropping a pawn on f4. You need to justify that. I think I might be able to justify in some sense, yeah? Just seeing what you probably mean. But it'll probably go into some kind of equal endgame. All right, guys, let's pick a move. So I'm going to just make you pick between 3 moves. Queen h4, queen h5, and bishop e5. Eric Leo, I like some of the calculation that you've given me. Eric Feng, after bishop takes h3, I have queen g3 probably. Trading off queens. Even the variation you've given is kind of straightforward, yeah? All right, bishop e5, queen h4, bishop e5, bishop e5. h4, bishop e5. Okay, good job. You've all actually done better than me. In the game, I'll tell you what I was doing, yeah? So my first instinct was actually simple. I should have played this intuitively. Queen h4 was my instinct with the idea of bishop e5, yeah? And you guys have all kind of talked about this position. I don't care which move order you go with. By the way, if you go queen h4 first and then go bishop e5, doesn't matter. I think it's the same. Shouldn't make a difference. Let's try bishop e5. I'm threading f3 check, so queen f3 is almost the only move, right? And after queen f3, now again, some of you are starting with king g7. Okay, mainly you want to go queen h4. The idea is you want to play king g7, rook h8. And white is in such a bad position, yeah? I really cannot get anything mobilized to the side. I can probably play bishop d3 and bishop f1 and hold on to that pawn for dear life. But black can even triple up on the h file, right? I mean, I don't see how white can really play this. And the extra pawn is almost useless for white. So this is completely winning for black. Because, I mean, even though there is no immediate breakthrough, white can still hold on for some more time. But black is just dominating, right? Yeah, black is also threatening bishop takes h3. You're right. After queen takes h3, f3 is game over, yeah? So anyways, what I did was I started calculating one more sequence, and someone, luckily for me, at least one person gave this. I was like, okay, what happens after queen h5? Let's look at it also, right? Before we make the move. So I decided let's calculate queen h5. And of course, the only move I could think of that white has after queen h5 is what? I mean, the most critical move. Correct? All of you are giving me the right move. Bishop takes f4 is the only move. All other moves, I'm almost getting the same position with the pawn on f4 by also taking away the h5 pawn. So let's calculate bishop f4. Is there a good response for black here? So Vihan, if I end up trading bishops with bishop e5, it doesn't feel like I'm launching any big attack. Bishop e5, for example, I can even play bishop takes e5 or queen g3. Doesn't feel like not queen g3. Bishop takes e5 probably I have to play. Yeah. Oh, and that's right. That's the move that caught my attention. Let's see if anyone else can come up with this. Queen takes h5, bishop takes f4. A move quickly caught my attention. That's not bishop e5. Zoe, that's right. Roger, right? Vihan, not that one. Eric Liu, that's correct. Ryo, no, that's not the move. Again, trading dark square bishop didn't really make me feel great. G5, guys, yes. Queen h5, bishop f4, g5. Now, I was wondering, okay, let's calculate this. By the way, I almost messed up because I thought queen h5, bishop f4, queen g4, I thought does the same job as g5. When I was calculating, I thought I can play both the moves. And queen h4 also does the same because the bishop has to run back. Bishop cannot go to g3 or e3. And of course, I think all of you are in chat already telling me queen g3 is right there. Yeah. So I was almost blundering when I was about to play the move. I realized, shoot, I cannot play queen h4. I was even thinking it might be a better version because I want to keep my pawn on g6. So the diagonal is closed and it's more solid when both moves achieve the same, but obviously it doesn't. So, but okay, g5 move looks nice, guys. Look at it. The bishop cannot go to g3 or e3. I simply collect h3 and the king is still going to be under a huge attack. The bishop cannot, of course, go to c1. That looks terrible. So the only realistic move is bishop d2. What can black follow up with that? I mean, g4 is possible, guys, but I don't think g4 is very threatening because g4 only threatens like g takes h3. I'm not too worried about it, you know. g4, maybe I can go right back with bishop f4 to stop bishop e5 check and simply give you pawn takes h3. Bishop e5 check, correct. That's the move that was interesting to me. So queen h5, bishop f4, g5, bishop d2, bishop e5 check. Correct. Right, that's exactly bishop e5 check. And now king g2 pretty much is forced. And now I didn't even calculate. Again, I was playing this game intuitively. I stopped. I want all of you to evaluate that position. What do you guys think? Queen h5, bishop f4, g5, followed by bishop e5. How would you evaluate the position? Okay, Vihan says black is better. 9 equal, black is better. Black is much better. Near winning because of the attack. About -2, interesting. -0.5, black is close to winning. So this is where evaluation gets a little tricky sometimes. Very good. This is exactly what I also evaluated. I thought black is probably like minus plus situation. Like probably I was evaluating this around minus over plus, not minus plus separate. So maybe something like, you know, somewhere between my 0.7 to 0.1. I mean, 1.0 level of advantage for me. It turns out the evaluation was completely off. So I'm just going to show this part to you. And bishop d2, bishop e5. Narayan, you did give a good evaluation. This is actually about equal. And it is maybe even better for white. And in fact, the move that I considered as the most natural next two moves was actually better for white. So king g2, I didn't calculate so much, but my main idea is I didn't want to play g4 right away. My main goal was to get the rook in, yeah? So I thought, what if I play king g7? They say rook h1 and rook h8. And now, in fact, they say rook b g1 and white is better. And I had no idea, of course. I mean, the game didn't go to this particular variation, but this is a pure evaluation mistake from my end as well. And it's just, I mean, equal or white is better. Yeah, I eventually won the game because my opponent didn't, of course, find this. He made a big mistake. So going back, so the problem is if I trusted just my intuitive play, I would have simply played queen h4. Somehow I started calculating a little bit more and I thought, okay, I'm taking the pawn and getting a similar situation. So I went queen h5, sorry. My opponent took and I played this. And here my opponent made a very handy move. I would say these are moves that you kind of see and play and then you regret. You don't really think. So okay, I don't know what you guys are talking in the chat, but yeah, he played bishop d1 here. Yeah, Ryo, good. You predicted the handy move. He saw bishop d1 attack. See an attacking move and you play it, yeah? You see a tempo and you think, wow, I got a tempo. I mean, it's a terrible move because after I played queen h4, he has just really made things much worse. I'm threatening queen f2 now. I'm threatening queen takes f4. I'm threatening on h3 as always. So he's now even more in trouble. So the only move here he could play was bishop g3. And now I take the pawn, king h2. So from here on, I want to talk about the finish. So I think timing-wise, we're doing great because here you are clearly better and you can sense it. It's equal pawns and the white king is so badly placed. White's pieces are badly placed. But it's nothing close to over, yeah? So I'm going to give everyone a minute. And what is the best move for black? What should I do? It's not a difficult move. I want to make sure everyone is in the right direction. Vihan, I think you typed it to everyone. Hanchi, is that a typo? Did you want to? I'm sure you don't want to play that move, Hanchi. Because I'm not so sure what the point of that would be. Yes, thank you. F6 wouldn't make so much sense. Aryan, be nice. Who's crying in the background? It's not crying. It's my 1-year-old son who's talking. He's probably giving answers to the positions. If you guys are not able to solve it, I'd love to bring him in. You didn't know that, Narayan? Okay, so some of you are playing rook e5. I'm not so sure what rook e5 does. What is this doing? Of course, I'm not going to take bishop takes e5. G4 rook h5 is idea. It seems too slow, doesn't it? I can play queen f1. Yeah, queen f3, queen f1. And it seems to me that queen f1 instantly is offering trade because otherwise you lose the rook on e5. I mean, you might be able to sacrifice it, but yeah. Bishop e5, why not pin? Okay, same question. I can go queen f1 or something, yeah? Okay, so I guess some of you have given the final critical move. It's very simple, not too complicated. I played f5, yeah? The most forcing move. Now you see why bishop d1 is even more of a terrible move because you've just allowed me to play f5. And I'm threatening f4, yeah? So he just again played what seemed like the only logical move. Rook. By the way, guys, let's focus on this. Stop the chat about some random things. Let's just finish this. Don't make me disable chat. Chat is a privilege. Okay, he played rook e3. Again, there are multiple moves that are good for black, but I want to see what you would do as black here and how would you proceed. Ryan, did I show this game in the team room? Vihani, you're again doing it in public group chat. Okay, let's see. Vihan has given me a move. Austin and Narayan has given me a move. Siversa has given me a move. All right, everyone, let's go. Almost like the final question. So I want all of you giving me something. You lost the privilege, Vihan. What can I say? Okay, so the moves I've gotten so far, okay, very interesting. Okay. Narayan, why did you play that move? And Austin, why did you play that move? I think only two of you have given me this. You need to type in an explanation. Austin May. You give me exclamation points, you have to explain it. Kevin Sue, interesting move. Very good, Narayan. Very good, Austin. All right. So I like the finish here. So the point here is this is, of course, the first two moves that come to my mind. F takes c4 and rook takes c4. Because clearly he cannot capture back. I mean, rook takes c4, he can capture back. But the point is, he cannot capture the pawn back. Because bishop f5 wins the rook on b1, right? So it is a free pawn. Now, a lot of you in chat mentioned this move, and I totally agree. This is the first move that came to my mind too. It's a free pawn, right? But let me ask you this, right? What is the move that you would really like to play that would be like the killer move will finish the game? I mean, whether it works or doesn't work. If this is a move you'd like to play. Vihan, Eric, correct. So the move I want to really play is f4. And that will finish the game off. If I can play it. I just cannot play it. Right? So keeping that in mind, can you tell me what black should play? Sometimes when you ask these kind of questions, you change the thought, it'll give you the answer. Hanchi and Eric Feng, now you have it. Vihan, rook takes c4, rook takes c4, pawn takes c4, you're again up a pawn, but you didn't get that deadly f4 move in, did you? Frankly speaking, guys, this is like not the end of the world at all, yeah, for white. Think about it. This is a game on because the e4 pawn can be under pressure. I mean, I'm up a pawn, I'm playing a normal game because I don't see checkmate happening, right? And white can continue to play on. By no means this is game over. Bishop e2, bishop f1, bishop g2. I'll move the bishop all the way around there. And queen takes g5 is now hanging, of course. And I don't know if there is, actually, maybe now there is king f7. And if I take queen g5, maybe there is rook h8. So I also think maybe queen f1 was possible then, yeah. Maybe more. But I think pretty much everyone in the chat now seem to have the answer, right? Once I change the question, everyone seemed to have the answer, yeah? So that's important. So what I want to emphasize here is that think about what you want to achieve sometimes. So, sometimes you have to think moves, calculation, one move after another, one move after another. Sometimes you have to ask questions like, what will my opponent do? Sometimes you'll have to ask questions like this. What is the move I want to really play? And why can't I make it happen, right? And then this is exactly the way you guys answered. This is exactly how the move immediately came to my mind. I was like, okay, you know what? Of course, I want to play queen h7. And it turns out it's the best move in the position. Yeah. There are so many other moves that are winning, but queen h7 is absolutely strong. Oh, no. Oh, no. I did not. Queen h7. And it's crushing because I'm threatening f4, which, of course, is a fork, winning a piece. You cannot touch f5 pawn right now. So white has only one move that he can play to not lose material, which is, well, e5 runs into, e5, I'll just take the e5 pawn first. Then I'll play f4 next. f3, I play f4, I win material. Actually, bishop h2 technically doesn't lose material, allows f4, but then the rook goes back. Then I go king f7, rook h8, and probably checkmate. f4 is the only move, yeah. My opponent played f4. But now I've really achieved what I wanted, because what bothered me in this position? In a position where I win the pawn directly, like rook e4 or with pawn takes e4, what really bothered me was the bishop on g3 and how beautifully it's still sitting and I cannot kick it out. That's a defending piece as well, yeah? And that pawn on f2 is holding the e4 and the g5 pawns together. So it's not an easy thing for me. So I didn't like that part. So when I see queen h7 and I know he has to play f4, I'm very happy. Takes Now I win the pawn and I take on f4. Yeah, I'm clearly attacking his king. How do I finish the game off, guys? Last question of the day. How does black get a forcing win? Not bad again. Probably every move wins here, unless you blunder a queen or something. But I just noticed it's just something tactical in this position. Okay. I see a couple of you already spotted the tactical idea. Eric, Narayan, Austin Tang, yes. Austin May, that's right, yeah. So all along in the game, bishop b5 is a move I couldn't play because of c4. But now white has played queen c4. That makes it very easy for me to play bishop b5. So all I have to do is make something happen on f1. So I played rook f8. After bishop goes to g3, bishop b5, and he resigned. So I think from being an equal, interesting position to the position kind of becoming very difficult to play for white and losing happened very quickly in a span of about 10 moves, yeah? Not more than that, probably about 10 moves. Actually, the 22nd moves when I played h5, correct, yeah. So it's about 12 moves where this happened. So some of the lessons that I would like you to take from here, first is, of course, in a close position, this bishop takes f4 is a key lesson very early on. Knight takes f4 was not the best move, bishop takes f4. But again, how you can forget things, I mean, like the things that I'm sharing with you, I did not even consider bishop takes f4. I was only looking at knight takes f4 because in my mind, I told you what I was working through, right? To me, that pawn structure with e takes f4 is only worth it if I get the bishop. And I'm only thinking like that. So the minute white has an option not to give the bishop, I never even consider it. But one of the main things that I would like all of you to take from this session is that when you have a winning position, you have to try to be very, very precise. I mean, if you have a win, be clinical. Don't give your opponent any chances. Yeah, that's simply going to finish the game off. Like, for example, f5, queen h7, you can play multiple other moves and the game could have gone on. But just 2 or 3 very precise moves and the game really ended. And that's important. Don't give your opponent more chances to play because invariably that'll come back to haunt you. You don't want that. Right? And lastly, one last thing is that when you play a game, try to be as honest as possible with your analysis. Now, everything I told you is exactly how it happened in the game. I missed the simplest move. I missed the simplest move. I told you I missed king g2. Well, it's not like I missed. I didn't even calculate it. I saw knight h5, g4, queen f6. I stopped calculation. I should have seen king g2. I didn't see it. The more honest you are with your calculation and with how you reflect on the game, it's easier for you to improve as a chess player, right? Because you will then quickly identify what your mistakes are. If you keep thinking, oh, wait, I saw this move and I calculated this whole thing, and that's why I made a beautiful combination. If you keep being like that, you won't be able to improve. So be critical. Try to really evaluate and say what mistakes I did. What did I not see? Why did I evaluate this wrong? Right? For me, I played queen takes h5, bad move. I should have played queen h4, easy win. I played a bad move because I evaluated that position to be bad. Now I can sit and reflect on it to say, oh, wait, I should not have done that. This is a mistake, right? So make sure you be very critical about those things. All right. I guess with that, I think is a good place for us to wrap it up. It was fun having all of you. I'll see you again in a future class. Bye, everyone.